Welcome to the Passive Income Machine podcast, where we show you how to break free from the grind and achieve real financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and I've helped thousands turn income into cash flow, trade fake money for real assets, and take back control over their time, their wealth, and ultimately their life. Each week, you'll get strategy, tools, and mindset to build your own passive income machine. So my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, my friends. Welcome to the Passive Income Machine. You are on the microphone today with me, Ryan D. Lee. And today I've got a topic for you to help you understand the game of money, to understand what's going on in the world around us and why it feels like the rich are actually getting richer in the world where that actually is happening. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the Cantillon Effect. It's how America's wealth gap is being engineered. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the topic of conversation right now. Now listen, my friends, what if I told you that the very strategies designed to boost the economy could be the reason you struggle with your retirement plan? Worse yet, if you're already retired, the Fed's economic growth games are wreaking havoc, making it nearly impossible for you to stay comfortably retired. The Fed has been manipulating our economy for decades, and those who follow along blindly are setting themselves up to lose the retirement game. And losing the retirement game is basically like losing life, because here's the reality. You're trading your time for money with the intention of having enough money one day to buy your life back. And if the Fed is manipulating the game of money behind the scenes, you're losing the game of money and losing the game of life, meaning you have to trade more time to ever buy your life back. So in this podcast, I'm going to be uncovering the hidden economic truth of what's been buried for centuries. It explains the growing wealth gap, rising inflation, and why lowering interest rates might not be the fix that so many people are hoping for. Now, again, listen, the reality of all of this is we teach people how to operate a passive income machine, a system that is engineered to help you become wealthy because of the economic system, to put inflation, interest rates, taxes, and opportunity cost on your side as a tailwind rather than a headwind. But most people are fighting against these things. So let's start off with the question, will lower interest rates help or hurt the economy and ultimately your retirement? So many people right now are clamoring for the Fed to lower interest rates, including President Trump, who's yelling at Jerome Powell saying the guy's stupid and he's going to get rid of him. Now, I'm not going to, advocate for Jerome Powell one way or the other. In fact, I'm advocating for the abolishment of the Fed altogether. But without that happening, let's acknowledge reality for what it is. Since 1990, the Fed has been using ultra-low interest rates to supposedly boost the economy. But after the strongest stimulus push from 2009 to 2021, the economy, it's still struggling. Debt is growing by over $1 trillion per year. That's the federal national debt, and it's heading close towards $2 trillion. That ultimately means that every single year, the federal government is adding $2 trillion to the national debt just from interest payments alone. It's real. The federal government cannot pay its debt, but yet they continue to print more money. And the big question is, does this level of growth justify more than a decade worth of free money? Over the last decade, in fact, it's been longer than a decade, since the year 2000 all the way to right now, 2025, the federal government has been putting on average 8% new money, more money, into the economy. They've been raising the money supply by on average 8% per year. And right now they're debating on the big beautiful bill to add more money, more debts, more money supply to an economy that is already struggling massively. At the same time, growth rates have fallen below even the worst of the Great Depression. So the reality of it is, the reason is simple. Low interest rates paired with a weak economy create massive problems. They inflate a debt balloon, leading to yet more inflation and volatility. And the numbers, they don't lie. Core inflation, it's still rising. The federal government, they seek a target rate of inflation of 2%, but when you really look at the real rate of inflation, I believe the rate of inflation is the money supply. If the money supply has been going up by 8%, that's the real rate of inflation. But you can go check out other websites like Shadow Stats who monitor what the real rate of inflation is without all of the federal government manipulation of what they say the inflation rate is. But the reality of it is, higher prices are putting immense pressure on your savings and ultimately on your investments. months. And the Fed, they just announced that they might be doing some rate cuts here at some point at the end of the year to try to bring rates down lower again, because the economy is stuck in a very difficult spot. The only lever that the federal government has the ability to pull is injecting more money into the economy by lowering interest rates. But is this really the right move? Let's break down why lowering interest rates isn't the quick fix that it appears to be. So we've been on an interest rate roller coaster. Since 2010, the Fed has kept the borrowing rates, the cost to borrow money, almost near zero, right? It cost virtually nothing for banks to borrow money, which led to a massive explosion of just the money supply across America. People were buying properties, they were locking in 2 to 3% interest rates, and the money supply just ballooned like crazy. With all of the COVID, federal stimulus packages going out to businesses and interest rates, the money supply expanded more under Trump's first presidency than any president in the history of our world. I mean, take that in for just a moment, okay? While this temporarily stimulated the economy, we have to ask ourselves, what's the real cost? At some point, America has to pay the cost of all of this money printing. So let's take housing prices, for example. Over that decade, with all of that money printing, we're going to go back to 2010, the cost of owning a home skyrocketed, making it impossible for most Americans, many Americans, to afford one. Now, sure, the Fed says that inflation is slowing down right now, but what they're not telling us is the entire story. Inflation may have dropped from what, Biden said it was in 2021 and 22 and 23, almost 9%, to maybe what the Fed again wants us to believe that it's 2%. But they completely ignore the 20% permanent price increase on everyday goods. Now, because this is a podcast, you're not going to see the graph, but there's a graph that I share with everyone inside of our community that shows the consumer prices of everyday household goods. On average, Americans have experienced a 20% permanent price increase. And when the Federal Reserve says prices are coming down, they're not going back to what they were before. They're just coming down slightly off of all-time historic highs, meaning the rate of inflation is slowing compared to what it used to be. But if the Fed comes back in 2025 and they buckle to Donald Trump's, obsessive demands about lowering interest rates, they're basically raising the white flag. It signals that cheap money is the only tool that the Federal Reserve, have left to try to avoid an even deeper crisis. Hey, just slide in here really quick. I hope you're loving the show and taking some serious notes, because everything you're learning right now leads directly to the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. It's the event of the year. If you're ready to stop dreaming and start living financially free, we have early registration open right now with an exclusive bonus that is too good to pass up. So click the link in the description or just head over to retireintenyears.com and grab your spot, and let's make this year the year that everything changes. Now, back to the show. Now, I'm going to take you back in history really quick just to understand what the heck is going on right now. I'm going to give you a forgotten story of 1734. So let me tell you this story, okay? It explains everything that's happening right now. In 1734, an economist named Richard Cantillon was murdered. He was murdered under very mysterious circumstances. His work was burned. Everything that he had done was burned except for one surviving manuscript. The manuscript that survived revealed an idea that was so dangerous that it explains nearly every economic problem that America has faced from that time all the way to today. It explained the flow of money. This phenomenon, known as the Cantillon Effect, works like a champagne tower. New money benefits the people closest to the source. So think about this as a champagne tower. If you're pouring champagne in, it fills the glasses at the top of the tower before it overflows and trickles down to the glasses down below. And by the time you get done pouring the champagne, all of the glasses at the top of the champagne tower are full, and there might be a few drops that trickled out of the full glasses into the glasses at the bottom of the tower. This is how the money supply is working right now. New money benefits the people closest to the source. New money benefits the people that are right by the printing press. They have the they have the ability to gain access to the new money that the Federal Reserve is injecting and flooding into the economy. Who might these people, who might these entities actually be? Well, number one, it's the banking system. The banking system carries out the Federal Reserve's orders. It's the political class. I mean, the easiest way for a politician today to get what they want is not to raise taxes. It's to vote for a stimulus, to push through a package that's going to make all Americans' lives better by printing new money. That's basically what this massive, big spending bill, what is Donald Trump calling it? The big, beautiful bill. I don't know what he's calling it, but while it might seek to do a lot of good, it's printing money out of thin air. So the political class gets easy access to fake money. The banking system gets easy access to fake money. And the wealthy, companies. I mean, during COVID, companies got so much money while small businesses were destroyed. So by the time the rest of us get access to all of this new money, it's already losing value. Because if banks, if Wall Street, if the government, if big corporations have access to the money first, what can they do? Well, they can turn around and use that money right when it comes out into the economy, acquire assets, drive the price of assets up. And by the time all of that fake money trickles down to the bottom, prices are already up, inflation has already happened, and our glasses are left empty. This is what the Cantillon Effect discusses. And this is why it was such a dangerous document, because it was right when, governments were starting to experiment with fake money again, fiat money. And this explains why the wealth gap in America keeps growing. Cantillon didn't just predict inequality. He warned that printing more money would literally enslave nations to foreign debt, hollowing them out from the inside. He said that this would create the illusion of wealth just before the collapse. Now, my friends, does this sound familiar to you? Well, it should, because it's exactly what's happening in America today. We're living out Cantillon's warning. Let me give you a couple of examples. Once thriving cities are literally collapsing under debt right now. But people, they're not mad at capitalism. They're mad at the money printer. The system was designed to benefit the few while leaving the rest behind. I mean, let's look at San Francisco for just a moment. It was once the beacon of economic success. But how did the once beacon of economic success become a shadow of its former self? Well, today, poverty is spreading in cities that used to thrive, and it's happening faster than anyone expected. Today, those companies, those cities, those towns where economic stimulus was coming in from ingenuity, from creation of value, from new products, now companies are moving out. They're looking for safe havens. They're looking for escaping high overpriced and overtaxed systems and going into places that are more economically feasible. So many companies have been leaving California because it's not economically profitable to do that. I was in a conference a couple of years back when Tony Robbins was talking about his move from California to Florida, and I can't remember exactly the number that he stated, but he said it equated to almost a $20 million a year raise just by moving. He went from a state that is onerous in its taxing system to a state that is open to building wealth and to attracting people that want to build wealth within that state. So anyway, this comes back to the Cantillon Effect. Okay, let's bring it back to your money. What does all of this mean for you? The key takeaway is that both politics and investing are a loser's game. You win in this game by not losing, by avoiding the big losses that could destroy your financial future. So here's how this plays out. In politics, you avoid becoming a victim by supporting politicians that reduce public debt, that lessen the taxpayer's burden. Right now, some candidates talk about cheap energy as a solution, but the real economic stability will only come with permanent reductions in federal spending. This is why Elon Musk and Donald Trump are in such a big feud right now. Elon Musk thought that Donald Trump, A, wouldn't increase government spending, B, would actually make something out of Doge and allow real permanent cuts to happen, and C, wouldn't just function like every politician before. Every politician, including Donald Trump in his first presidency, just prints more money. My friends, today the federal deficit is at $37 trillion and climbing. Very soon, we'll be adding $2 trillion of national debt to the budget every single year just from interest on the loans that we cannot outpay. The only pathway for a government who's unwilling to face the consequences of the reckless decisions that they've made is to print more money, to try to inflate their currency and erode the value of their debt by inflation. That's what they're doing right now. Number two, I'm getting all fired up. Oh my gosh. Number two, investing. Okay, listen, the most important thing is to stay in the game and avoid big losses. Here's the objective if you're an investor. Understand the rules of the game. The Cantillon Effect is real. Your objective is to get as close to the printing press as possible. How do you get access in this world to fake money, to money that's being printed? Well, it's super simple. You have to cross the line. Cross the line from hoping that you can trade your time, pay your taxes, and take what's left over and save for the future, to accessing debt now. You can't walk into a bank and say, give me all of your money. Otherwise, you're going to be locked up and taken to jail as a bank robber. But if you walk into the very same bank with an asset in tow and want a mortgage on that asset, the bank will rev up the printing presser just for you. They'll start printing money out of thin air, and you can turn their fake money into a real asset. This allows you to take inflation, and inflation actually makes you wealthy, just like it does for the wealthy. The way it works, you use fake money, the bank's money, to buy a real asset. And as the government continues to print and print and print and print more money, the price of your asset that is always in demand is going to go up. This ultimately means that as the price goes up, you get wealthier because of inflation. And every single time the price, the value of your real estate goes up and your tenant is paying down your mortgage for you, it's injecting more and more and more equity into your equation. And what we teach our people to do on this in the passive income machine strategy is every single time you've got the opportunity, go back to the bank, because bank's business is lending out fake money. Go back to the bank and do a cash out refi. Take the equity out of your property by allowing the bank to print new money, re-amortize your mortgage, take that money now and protect it in your vault. That takes the money out of the bank's control and it now puts it into your control. A vault is an overfunded high cash value life insurance policy that, when you understand the game, can be used like a bank, but rather than it being in the bank's control, the money is now in your control. So you might think lowering interest rates means recovery, but history is actually telling us the opposite. Each time the Fed slashes rates in a weak economy, it's a sign of desperation. They're artificially inflating the economy, and it always ends in more inflation, more volatility, and more pain for everyday people. Listen, the last time the Fed dramatically lowered rates, after the dot-com bubble burst into the 2000s, and again after 2008 financial crisis, both times they fueled a temporary boom followed by a much bigger crash. And the reason for that is cheap money, fake money, and debt can only keep an economy propped up for so long. Eventually, the bubble's going to burst. Eventually, the can that we continue to kick down the road as the American people has to be paid. We have to pay that price. And I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow or decades out. But what I do know is there is a real solution to achieving wealth in this crazy cycle. You have to get to the top of that champagne tower. You have to own and control the printing press and take their money and convert it into a real asset. So, my friends, this is the objective of this strategy, is to help you, A, obviously avoid the big loss, but B, play offense, not defense. Understand the rules of the game of money and use those rules to win. And the reason winning is so important is you are already trading your time. You're already playing this game whether you like it or not, whether you opted in or not. The game of money is literally a game of time. And you can trade more and more and more of your time for less and less and less valuable dollars, or you can get smart. Getting smart means understanding the game, understanding the rules of the game, and playing by those rules, the same rules that the wealthy use, to play to win. My friends, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Passive Income Machine podcast. I'll see you on the next one. All right, my friends, thanks so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate you tuning in. But before you go, if we talked about something today that made you want to take action, you need to get yourself registered for the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. It's the financial game changer that you've been looking for, teaching you exactly how to create passive income and financial freedom in 2025. Jump on it early because we've got a special bonus waiting for you. All the details are in the link below, or head on over to retireintenyears.com. So get registered and I'll see you at the summit.